welcome. My name is Miriam. I'm a certified probate and trust specialist, and I work with families that are going through probate or have a trust and need assistance with real estate. And today I have Marina Ware with me here today. She's a fiduciary and she helps families throughout the Bay Area and many other places with different resources. So she's going to explain to us a little bit about what she does and the services she provides. Hi Marina, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here today with you.
Thank you, likewise. So there's a lot of services that you provide. In fact, when I found out about your role, I was amazed and I'm like, wow, there's people out there that are helping families with financial planning, with the elderly family members and things like that. Please tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, so I'm a licensed professional fiduciary and national certified guardian. So my license allows me to serve as power of attorney for finance and healthcare, guardian, conservator, successor trustee, and executor in probate court.
Wow, that's a lot.
There's a lot of
yes. So let's start off. Mainly what you do, if we want to bring it down, because these titles and all of the things that you mention are very important. So your clients, mainly the age group that you help, is there an age group that you help?
I would say probably my clients are, they're probably retired or they're probably disabled. So when I serve as a trustee on a special needs trust, usually the person might have some sort of disability or handicap, and they just need assistance with maybe managing their finances. In some situations, they might need assistance with making healthcare decisions.
Got it. So we actually talked about that in another video with an estate planning attorney. There's different types of trust, and the special needs is for someone who needs the additional support, right? Who might have a disability.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So oftentimes with the special needs trust, it could be set up by an individual or third party, and it could be that maybe the individual may be on government entitlements. So we have to kind of maximize the trust to not jeopardize those government benefits. Other situations, it could be that maybe the trust beneficiary might have some spending issues, and so if the parent if it's their trust, they want to ensure that trust will last throughout their life.
Right.
For some individuals who might have, spending issues or other addiction issues.
Right. This is so important, and I think we don't talk about it often enough, especially with estate planning and making sure that our legacy and our finances are protected. Why did you start working in this industry? If we go back, because you've been working, 20, 30 years?
Yes.
Okay.
So I started off as a career paralegal, working as a corporate paralegal. Then I changed fields of law to working in the area of probate and estate planning. And so a situation had arisen where they needed someone to step in and fulfill the executor role because the widow could not qualify for the probate bond. So that was my first opportunity to kind of step into the role as being a fiduciary. So with my paralegal background, it gave me the foundation to be able to just transition those paralegal skills into becoming a licensed fiduciary.
Wow, and this was many years ago.
Many years ago. I was a career paralegal for over 30 years.
Wow, so that's amazing.
I just decided, being a paralegal, I was just no longer challenged. And so becoming a fiduciary, I was able to become more of a problem solver for people and more of a manager of the case.
Right.
And so.
Got it. Thank you so much. And I have a few questions that I wrote down to make sure that I ask you certain things, because I think what you do is very valuable. And again, many times in my career in real estate, I do have elderly clients that need support and guidance from someone like yourself who's able to guide them through their finances. Once they sell a house, what do they do with the money? Many people are not sure what to do with the money once it's in their hands, or their taxes, or their medical bills or expenses. In fact, I had a client who sold his home and he moved into a facility and wasn't able to manage his finances from the facility. So he needed support. So I think your work is very valuable. Can you tell us the primary responsibilities? I know you mentioned all those things, but what is your primary responsibility in your role, or does it depend on what capacity you are working in?
Okay, that's a great question, Miriam.
Thank you.
So it just depends on each person and what their need is. So in some situations, maybe they just need help managing their finances. I just took on a case recently with an 83-year-old client who was transitioning from living in her home in Silicon Valley to Walnut Creek. And, she just needs assistance with bill paying and getting her home sold in Silicon Valley. And so she's very, very articulate, bright, smart, but she just needs a little assistance with that, because it's such a huge life transition,
of course,
to selling your home to moving to an assisted living situation. So that would be one scenario where I can come in and help someone.
Perfect. So that would be, I would say, you have bigger scale things that you do, right? This is helping someone. Of course, it's still big, her transition. Yes. But someone could have multiple homes or multiple businesses, and you're able to help them in that capacity.
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And then a second scenario is sometimes people pass away.
Yes.
And maybe the family or heirs live out of the area.
Yes.
And they need someone to step into the executor role to be able to administer their loved one's estate.
Right.
And so that's another way too, where I'm able to help families and people.
Perfect. Something that I've seen, and this is when I refer clients out, when siblings don't agree, and one of them doesn't want someone else to be the executor. So many times I have them reach out to a third party. Is that something that you see also?
Yes, that's a very common issue that happens.
Yeah.
With family dynamics. You have siblings who don't see eye to eye, or they're estranged from each other. So in that situation, that would be an excellent opportunity for a fiduciary to come in and assist the family to get things accomplished.
Perfect.
in a more stress-free manner.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's pretty much what you do. You help take over to reduce the stress.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. What are some of the things that you have to consider when dealing with someone's, let's just say they're going through probate and you're the executor? What are some of the ways that you do, or ways that you handle conflicts between the family members or the beneficiaries?
So my number one rule is to over communicate with people and to be transparent with the information. So if there's a problem, I tell people, look, the courts are behind, or the attorney's really busy, and this is the reason for things not happening as fast as you would like. So it's just being transparent with people and trying to keep the communication open with them and keep them up to date on the situations.
Perfect. In your experience, can you tell us why you believe estate planning is so important?
Well, the number one important thing about estate planning is you don't want to leave that up to the probate courts. Right. So when you have a solid estate planning in place, you're going to avoid probate and you're going to save a lot of money for your heirs. So that's always highly recommended. Whenever I talk to any prospect, that's always my first question. Do you have a will? Do you have a living trust? Do you what happens if you become incapacitated? Do you have a power of attorney just in case you can't make financial decisions for yourself? What happens if you're in a car accident and there's no one around? Do you have a durable power of attorney for healthcare? In case you can no longer make medical decisions for yourself.
Right. I think it's, and I was talking about this with another attorney, maybe it's a lack of knowledge and awareness, but I think people don't give it enough importance or believe that it'll happen to them, right? Like, oh, nothing's gonna happen to me. Or it's a very painful thought to think like I might die and what's gonna happen to my assets. So many families that I've encountered, especially with probate, that's when I come in to sell their house, people didn't wanna talk about an estate plan. It was something that people just don't wanna talk about. So
Right.
bringing awareness to that, and with your experience, of course, is so valuable because I'm sure you see all these scenarios and all these cases.
Yes, there's always lots of scenarios, and I'm just surprised by the number of people who have been just high-profile cases in the press of individuals who didn't properly, plan for their estate. We had Britney Spears, we have Jay Leno, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Those are all very high-profile celebrity cases where one would think they would have taken the time to, make a proper estate plan for themselves.
Right. I had a case in which, or a transaction in which the family members owned 10 houses in Silicon Valley, San Francisco. So their estate was worth a lot of money and they did not have an estate plan. So they had to go through the probate court. And I think they ended up paying over $150,000 for attorney fees for someone to manage their estate. So like you mentioned, these cases that you're mentioning, I wasn't aware of those, but I know it's very common that people don't take care of their stuff or even update their estate plan.
Right. I think it's just an awkward, uncomfortable topic that people just don't want to talk about.
Right.
I just don't know why people put it off, but it just happens all of the time.
Right. And for us that we're in this industry, maybe it's more normalized. I know when I talk about death to people, they're like, okay, here she goes again, telling us to create our estate plan. How do you approach asset management with your clients? And I know everyone comes in with different financial situations, but what is your approach to preserving their assets or helping them with their managing of their assets?
Okay, so I leave that topic to the professionals. I'm going to talk with the person, find out who's who's in charge of their stock account or their investment account, try to work with their professionals that they already have in place. And if they don't have a financial advisor or a financial planner, I will refer them to someone who can help them preserve those assets and perhaps build from what they have.
Perfect. Yeah. And one of those professionals that you're mentioning could be a CPA. What type of professional resources do you have for these type of clients?
That would be my team of CPAs, financial advisors, certified financial planners.
Perfect.
Would be the appropriate professionals to be able to provide the proper guidance on that preservation of capital.
Yeah. And I love that you have a team in place that can help people because I know especially for myself or people that I work with, you want to work with someone that you trust and that you know will do a good job.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Really, really important.
When someone comes in, and this is all about the financial aspects, when someone comes in to work with you, do they have to meet a minimum criteria or does it just depend on their assets?
It just depends.
Scenario.
It just depends on the situation. I truly like to help people, so I'm not always looking at a minimum.
Okay.
So each case is different.
Yeah. And speaking about that, if someone wanted to work with you, you would set up like a consultation. Is that how it normally works? So you get to know their situation better?
Yes. So I always try and do what's called a good fit meeting with them so that we can get acquainted with each other and determine if it's a good fit.
Perfect. That seems fairly simple. Good fit. It makes sense to me.
Right.
Perfect. So again, I'm learning more about your role in this space, and I know that you have a lot of responsibilities.
Yes.
You also work with conservatorship cases and guardianship. Can you please tell us a little bit about that? I don't think I've seen a lot of attorneys or in my space talk about that. Can you tell me a little bit more about your role in regards to conservatorship cases or guardianships?
Sure. Okay. So a conservatorship case happens when somebody does not have an estate plan, they don't have a will, living trust, or power of attorney. And there's two types of conservatorships. We have conservatorship of the estate, where a licensed professional fiduciary will come in and will then start managing the person's finances. And then the second case is conservatorship of the person. And it could be that that person is no longer capable of making healthcare decisions for them, and there's nobody available to do that. And so the court says when a person becomes incapacitated and they don't have a living trust or will, it has to go to probate court to have a conservator appointed for either managing their finances or for managing their personal well-being.
Okay, perfect. I work with the Public Administrator's Office in Santa Clara County. I'm actually one of 10 agents that they hire whenever there's real estate that they need to sell or purchase on behalf of a conservatee. Conservator would be the person who's incapacitated. Is that?
The conservatee is the person who's incapacitated.
Okay, perfect.
And the conservator is the person who's in that role, helping the individual.
Perfect. So I help the county sometimes with those type of cases in regards to the real estate part, which is a really interesting experience because all the cases are very different. I know that the county handles these cases. In what situation would you be the one called upon to help these type of clients? Is it by the county or is it? Usually
it's a phone call from an attorney.
Okay.
It could be maybe a family member needs help. Sometimes you have, you could have like a husband and wife, maybe they're elderly and neither one of them can fulfill that role.
Okay.
So then somebody reaches out to a probate attorney and says we need to retain the services of a licensed professional fiduciary to step in and to be appointed as conservator by the court.
Perfect. So please tell us a little bit about risk management and how that plays a role in estate and trust administration.
Okay, so we never want to jeopardize the estate's assets. So one important consideration is we always want to make sure that those assets are protected. So if the trustor has a home, you want to make sure that the home is properly insured. If they have motor vehicles, you want to make sure that those vehicles are properly insured. And if they don't have any health insurance, you'd want to go ahead and take the necessary means to get the trust beneficiary health insurance. So it's just making sure that those trust assets are protected through getting proper insurance for those assets.
Perfect. And you pretty much handle all of that, right? When you take on a client.
Yes.
Which is a lot because even calling these agencies can be a headache sometimes, or getting a hold of someone.
Yes.
Yes. So if there's any wishes or that the client needs or has, you can assist and fulfill those, right? As long as it's within your role and responsibility when you take on that role.
Yes, and so being a fiduciary, we are bound to a code of ethics of a person-centered planning.
Yes.
So for my clients where I am just managing their finances, I'm always being transparent with them. I'm keeping them in the loop, saying, okay, we need to get, we need to get your car insured because you don't have any car insurance and can't be driving around your car without having insurance.
Right.
And what happens is just some people, it just becomes too much of an overwhelming process for them. Just on these simple tasks. And so I just try to do whatever I can to get those assets protected.
Yeah.
Because one thing we don't want is we don't want to, for there to be any liability for the estate. I had one situation where one of my clients was out driving her car without car insurance. She had a revoked license.
Oh. And
it was just a very delicate situation because, she could get in an accident and that could end up costing $1 million or something. So,
and I think, especially me, I work with a lot of elderly clients. That's one of my specialties. And It's really unfortunate because, like you said, some things that can be easily done for some people at a certain age is not so easy. Literally getting out of bed could be challenging for them, right? So I think having someone like you that can assist them with that is amazing, because a lot of these people need these services. And even if you're a child of a parent who is not able to function to that capacity, I think it's really important to reach out to someone like yourself to see if you can assist them with these things, because some people could be in danger.
Right.
I've had clients where I move in to start prepping the house to sell it, and I cannot believe that they're living under those conditions.
Yes.
And the kids are like, oh, we visit them once a month. And I'm like, yeah, at this age or for their capacity, they need more care. So I'm coming in and I'm looking at the homes, or sometimes when people die, and I just cannot believe that they're living that way.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you see that.
Yes.
As well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would you do? That's another conversation that I think it's really important to have. If someone is living, if there's an elderly client that you have and is living in a situation that you believe that is not the best for them, maybe hoarding, I know that's very common, or I've seen houses that are, I don't know, with dog feces everywhere or something like that. What would be an approach that you would take in your role?
I would just have to have a sit down with the person and say, let's get some resources for you. Let's get some resources that can help you create a better life for yourself. And that could be people that I know through my referral network, bringing in a house organizer who can come in and organize the house, maybe hiring a house cleaner.
Right.
It's just bringing on a team of people who can help solve the problem.
Perfect. Yeah, you put the puzzle together. I love that. I do too, and I love what I do. So that's so wonderful. So what are some best practices that you recommend for record keeping? I know you probably do a lot of that.
Yes.
Or some of the practices that you do in your space to make sure that you keep record of all this, because I know that, especially if you're dealing with the court, there might be a situation where they're asking for your information, or whenever you need to get paid, record keeping. So what do you do to make sure that you keep that very nicely and properly done?
Okay. Well, as a licensed professional fiduciary, we are required to keep copies of receipts for all transactions. And so that's a matter of just keeping the receipts, doing monthly bank reconciliations. I also keep timesheets, and I record the amount of time that I spend on each of my cases. So it's just a very, very complex record keeping process. And for probate court, we have to provide an accounting to the court, and that accounting has to be approved by the probate judge. So we're very, very strict. The court's very strict with fiduciaries in keeping accurate record keeping. Right.
Good. Thank you for talking about that, because I have seen cases that are bounced back from the court because the numbers are not adding up. In fact, I had a training recently with the judge in Santa Clara County, and he was talking about how the judges really go through the accounting part of it, and if something seems like it's off, they might give it back to the attorney and question them, and the case cannot move forward until that's rectified.
Right, and it has to be balanced to the penny.
Exactly. I did not know that either. Literally to the penny. They had to go back a couple of times. So that's great that you mentioned that, and I think that's why it would be very great to have you on the team if someone's not able to keep track of the accounting for their elderly parent as well, or a probate case. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What are some of the vital services that you offer? I know there's so many, but if there's 3 services that you offer that you're like, this is what I help with people the most.
Okay. So being court executor, administrator, and probate court is probably one of the areas that I specialize in. And then the second area is trust administration. So people pass away and they need someone to administer their estate. I liquidate all assets, and I give the trust beneficiaries their inheritance check.
Oh, That's very important.
Probate and trust administration are the areas that I specialize in.
Probate and trust, perfect. And again, for those, people can just reach out to you and talk to you about their situation.
Yes.
But many times you do work with attorneys who also refer clients over to you.
Yes, that is correct.
Perfect. Is there a time limit? For example, for me in real estate related to probate, our listing has to be for 3 months. If we go longer than that, we get extensions. Do you have a time limit as to how long you could serve this client, or can it be years?
It could be for as long as it takes. A lot of times, there are cases and they just take longer. And I'll use an example of that. So I have one client who lost her life in the Paradise Fire, and we've been dealing with the administrator for the Paradise Camp Fire, and that case has gone on for about 6 years.
Wow.
And it's just because PG&E had filed for bankruptcy. There was a trust administrator for the Camp Fire.
Okay.
And it's just been a long, complicated, and expensive process. So in that situation, I have a case at 6 years, and it's just, there's not much I can do about that. I'm at the mercy of the court system and at the way that the litigation is advancing.
That makes sense. So you kind of just go along with whatever is going on in this case, in this situation with the case.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. I've heard, I was talking to another fiduciary, and she mentioned, I think she was working with someone for over 20 years. So it could be where the timeline or the length of time is much longer, right? Or a short period as well.
It could, the administration could be completed in probably a year.
Yeah.
Or it could go on for years. And sometimes you have heirs suing other heirs, and maybe the fiduciary is at risk. So, each case is just very unique and different.
Yeah, I understand. So please tell me, how do you coordinate professional services for your clients, whether it's attorneys, accountants, or other people that help your clients out?
Okay, well, I'm going to try and match them with an appropriate professional. Sometimes it's geographic, sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's just dependent upon the special circumstances pertaining to that case. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, we need to bring on a certified probate attorney. Other times we might need an attorney who specializes in conservatorships. Sometimes we might have to bring on a litigation attorney to handle any potential litigation. So it's all a matter of trying to find the right professional for the case at large.
Right. And I've seen, because I'm also a part of PFAC, Professional Fiduciaries of California, and I've seen how many trainings you have and how many vendors and people come in to train and the resources. So your team is pretty large, right? And you have a lot of tools.
We have a lot of resources as being members of PFAC.
Yes, perfect. I'm actually have learned a lot and met a lot of people in resources, so I'm very grateful for that too. Speaking about that, not everyone could just be a professional fiduciary. You have to have certain skill level, education, and a certification. Tell us about if you can, about the education level, or what are the requirements to obtain a position like yours? So
typically, you would either have a college degree, and then you would have to complete, I believe it's 30 units of related education. And if you don't have a college degree and have the 30 units of continuing education, you would have to complete a fiduciary coursework at an accredited university.
Okay, perfect. And speaking about that, I'm sorry, before we move on, who gives you your license? Is it the state that gives you the license?
Yes.
Okay.
A fiduciary license is issued by the state of California.
Okay.
Or other state.
That's where I wanted to move on and ask you, because when I saw your LinkedIn, I was amazed, and I went to your website, of course, and I met Marina through her social media because she's so amazing online and has so many resources for people. I saw all of your skills, and I saw your education and all the wonderful things. So please tell us about you, and are you licensed in multiple areas?
So I'm a licensed professional fiduciary by the state of California, and I'm also a national certified guardian. And so being a national certified guardian, my licensure is good in 45 other states. So that would allow me to serve in my various fiduciary capacities in 45 other states.
That's amazing. Does that happen often, where they call you upon a service in another state?
I've had situations where maybe the decedent may have had assets in other states. Mm-hmm. And so then I have to be appointed as the fiduciary in that particular state. So there could be a probate, let's say in Missouri, because I actually have been to probate court in Missouri. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, I have the licensure to be able to serve in probate court in different states.
That seems amazing. And I feel like I haven't seen that much. Would you say that that's not as common?
I think it's something that just recently passes legislation. With the new stringent licensing requirements for fiduciaries.
Wonderful. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything specific that you would like to share with us that you are like, I need to say this to the audience and people watching about your services and what you can offer?
Okay. So my advice to the general public would be get a estate plan put in place. And if you have an estate plan, I would maybe take a look at that information to make sure that it's current and up to date and your beneficiary information is up to date and all of your assets are in your living trust, and also to ensure that the individuals that you've named as your executor and trustee are suitable for your current situation.
Wonderful. Thank you. I say that too, but in a very different way. Please tell us, if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way?
The best way to reach out to me is by telephone. My phone number is 925-234-3470. You can also find me on the web at diablovalleyfiduciary.com.
And we will share that on the screen. We'll also share your resources. We really appreciate you sharing everything about the services that you provide and how you help families. I do believe that your role is just beautiful, what you do for a lot of our clients who are elderly or are disabled. So I want to say on behalf of everyone that has seen a situation like that or has a family member and you've impacted them, we appreciate you and your services. So thank you so much for being here today.
And thank you for having me today. Thank you.